Hello, everyone. Mackie here, and welcome to Mid-Season Madness. Actually, welcome back to Mid-Season Madness, is what I said. And we'd like to welcome you to the Big Boy Leagues, aka the knockout stage of the MSI bracket for 2025. Now, before we get to this, a lot of housekeeping is going to take place. You notice that my playing brackets is perfectly intact. BLG, G2 are the teams that are advancing. GAM and Fury are the teams that are going home. It's the how we got there. That's going to be the talking point, of course. I mean, we took the absolute scenic route in order to do that. BLG are kind of like coasting through, dominated every single team. They dominated G2. They dominated GAM. They pretty much like clear above the rest. G2 are the team that I'm talking about. And let's just say, if you're an LEC fan, it is not a great sight to see G2 struggling like this. Both series went to 5 games. Both rely on Cas being the better player. Both have to rely on scaling even to win, overcoming their inexperience, over aggressively opponents to the point of winning those games. And I feel right now, and I feel if you are a G2 fan, and let's just be honest, if you are a G2 fan, your team may not be in the top 4 contention. Maybe not even winning that matchup. Ironically enough, against Gen G, which of course is going to be where the first match will take place tomorrow. And to all my Canadian viewers who are watching this, happy Canadian Day to everyone out there. Hopefully you have a good time. I certainly hope the Americans are salty about it. Anyways, David S. touched on a few points in his video or his recording a couple of hours ago, and I wanted to like talk about it a little bit more, which is kind of like it's targeting the same points that he is. And for anybody who don't know, no, I'm not a mouthpiece for him. I'm just telling you straight up facts. He has his own opinion. I have my opinion, but we're all kind of like in the same mesh. We're all in the same agreement, and I think we both agree that away from BLG, these play-ins have been absolutely fantastic. If you look at my props right now, I said we might get 5 best of 5s in MSI. We already have 3. 3 of them in the first 3 days of the tournament. And neither of them were BLG matches. BLG kind of stumped them. It was Furia versus G2, which everybody expected G2 to stump Furia. We did not get happening. Furia absolutely outclassed G2. First game, 28 minutes, and like, whoa. Okay, Furia, my goodness. Damn, they're not that bad as many people think. It went to 5 games. G2 won with scaling. That was pretty much it. The second game, it was Vietnam versus Brazil, which is like an absolute fiesta. Lots of kills, lots of misplays, and all the kind of stuff. Not the cleanest League of Legends in the eyes of so many people. But listen, you expected that from like, let's just say 2 minor regions. Maybe I should not call them minor regions since, they are from like the major regions. But from minor regional play-in styles of both teams. And it went to 5 games, so not surprised there. And then GAM versus G2. G2 started off 2-0. Now I left work, my parents' work, when G2 were up 2-0. I was ready to make a quick video saying G2 are back, Caps looking great, they looking like a decently good team, although they have not been great in the playing stage. The 3-0 statement against GAM would have been absolutely feel like G2 are slowly back to their best. And then GAM really, really turn it on in game 3 and 4 to the point of like GAM may win this. There's a point that in my mind GAM may win this series, and it will send Reddit to the absolute meltdown. And in fact, we're gonna have a coin toss pretty much after the whole series is over. But unfortunately, just like against Furia, Senna scaling, big mistake on the point of Kiaya in that last fight. Castro being clutch as usual. G2 wins, and everybody will be like, wash your hands clean. So that is the reason why we have this perfect play-in brackets, even though the way we got there is not as perfect as many people seems. And I said it again, LEC fans should worried about G2. I mean, man, Broken Blade has not been. Listen, I'm gonna be a little bit. I'm gonna be critical about these players. I'm not gonna go sugar coated this whole thing. Broken Blade, not so great, especially in the early games, of course. Especially against Kiaya and especially against Guerrero in those early games. He is not looking great. I think Cass has been like the only shining light in some of these games. He was clutch when he matters the most, but even then, it's just not his game. Skumon, I think he was okay. I think he's okay. He's an okay jungler. He was doing some plays. He was making some decent plays, of course, but he is not doing well. I think Hansama is like the only bright spot in this only team, even though he has not been like the shining light of the old team. He hasn't been like the dominant carry as many people think. And I think most of the time because of the solo laners being inting, but most of the time he has not done much. And Labrov could just keep inting and inting and inting. He did some decent plays, but he just kept inted and inted and inted. And I feel like I think I said it in my preview. This has been G2's Achilles heel throughout the entire year. It's that, they have been up and down so much. And then when it matters the most, when these crucial situations matter the most, they just turn it up and find a way to win, which can boast well in the later stages, but in terms of bigger competition, it can really hurt you. Which is why I put G2 in my post play-ins rankings as the 8th best team in the whole entire MSI brackets, which pretty much makes sense. Their play-ins have not been great. They managed to scrap through the two teams that everybody expected G2 to beat. Although, let's just respect GAM and Furia, and I'll respect these two teams later. And you're facing against Gen G. First match of July, by the way, and the first match of the bracket stage, you're facing against Gen G. And I just don't see them beating Gen G. It will take every single player on G2 to play probably their best games of their lives in order to do that. And even then, I just do not see them beating Gen G. I'm not seeing Gen G losing. Well, Gen G could lose a couple of games as we saw in the Road to MSI match against Hana Live Esports, but to say that, can G2 actually beat them? I just don't feel so. I just don't think so. It would take like a FlyQuest match. It would take like a situation like FlyQuest did at Worlds last year to make me believe. But after that playing performance, I just have no hope. I believe this is like the lowest that G2 have ever gone since 2018. And of course, what they did in 2018 was when they upset RNG and pulled off that incredible upset. That is gonna that has to require to happen. It will take the 2018 equivalent of beating RNG for G2 to win. And even then, they have to face like another Asian team in anyone's legend, or maybe a prayer against FlyQuest. And I'm not sure that G2 could be favored against FlyQuest in all my opinion. So that's why I put them as the 8th best team. CFO 7th, Koi is 6th, FlyQuest is 5th, BLG, I think I dropped BLG kind of down, of course, because, listen, I expected them to win, but against T1, against Faker, against that competitiveness that we all see, and against the team that knows how to be clutch in most cases and knows when it turns on, they can be good when it matters the most, I think I have T1 as 3rd, to the joy of many insane T1 fans. Anyone's Legend 2nd and Gen G 1st. That is my rankings for the play-ins. We'll find out pretty much after the first couple of stages in the bracket stage after Sunday where my rankings go. But for now, these are my post-play-in rankings. You can just snapshot, comment it, take it to Reddit, roast me, hurt me as much as you can will. I don't know if I can take it, but I'll try my best. Now, it's time for some 07s for some teams. And I think David pretty much harkened the point, which I'm going to get in with Furia. I believe the anger around the whole LTA situation, in which you're saying Cloud9 should be at MSI, not this crappy Furia team. I mean, the way how that LTA North follow was great, they should have sent both teams in. And it's like, The bad news is that Cloud9 actually lost. What makes it even worse is that the it's Riot, for God's sakes. Your anger is supposed to be Riot, for God's sakes. Not Furia, who, by the way, let me just applaud this team for actually showing up and play great, not saying great League of Legends, but playing absolutely fearless League of Legends to the point that I feel like had Furia won against G2, my entire pickings was ruined. Every single one of their pickings would have been ruined beyond belief. Now, I think Furia would not have advanced, but many pickers would have been destroyed had Furia would have beaten G2, and rightfully so because of their incredible fearlessness. You know, Guillo put up an incredible work in the game against G2. He was not doing well against Gam. Tatsu was pretty much good. Tatu was also pretty decently good. I think this is a young, fully Brazilian team that's going to get better with experience, with a lot of play time, of course. And I hope they can use this to springboard their way into a probably a Worlds appearance. Because right now, the way they've been playing, the way they've been so fearless, and let's be honest, the way they've been doubted so many community people, many people were thinking, okay, they should never take a game against G2, and maybe should never take a game against BLG. The fact they took games out of these two teams and actually were close to winning those is a testament to how good they are. But back to my point about the LLTA situation is that the fault is not to Furia, in which they get qualified. They earned the right to be here. The fault is the same thing I said about the LCK road to MSI. It is Riot's fault for not having an MSI finals, the same way it is Riot's fault to not have any kind of merger with a region that, let's be honest, and I'm going to be brutally honest right now, there is not a rivalry to begin with. You, LT, what is Riot thinking? You're thinking to yourself, we are merging these regions because we wanted to have a competitive rivalry between CB LOL and LCS to make North America, South America, and make the Americans great again. Riot, look at this BS. Tell me this is competitive. Tell me with your eyes, with your competitiveness, that is competitive. That is competitive. This is not competitive at all. This is not competitive at all. And there is some noise there. I'm gonna pause for just a couple of minutes and come back. I mean, seriously, this is not competitive at all. You're saying that you wanted to merge these things to make a competitive rivalry out of this. I'm sorry, but this is not competitive at all. This is not as competitive as many people seem. Now, what was I saying? Oh, yes, the competitive scene. So you're telling me, Riot, that you decided to merge the both North America and South America for competitive reasons, because everybody is saying that, oh, maybe we might bring a rivalry between CB LOL and the LCS. When you look at the bracket and the way the viewership has looked at and the way the subscribers, the LTA South has more subscribers than the LTA North. Your own region that you're supposed to save, for God's sakes, cannot even take a lick from the viewership of the LTA South. It is a disgrace to the CB LOL region, a respectable region with their own culture, with their own flair, with their own style that sadly that I didn't even watch, but should be respected and should be accounted for. And listen, if I am League of Legends commissioner today, I would say cut the BS, end the LTA right now, bring back the LCS CB LOL, market the crap better, and let them have their own way. Okay? If CB LOL is crap, fine. If LCS is crap, fine. But we should never have this kind of situation in which we feel like, let's just do this to make the region better. Because let's be honest, your region will never get better. All these things will never get this region better. So stop trying to make it better in order to make things worse. It's not. Okay? This is not making these things better. And that's just my 2 cents about this whole thing. But Furia, I'm sorry that you are part of this whole BS system that Riot has been put in. It's not your fault.
And listen, nobody was expecting you to be there. Pain was supposed to be like the team that everybody expected him to dominate and win this whole thing, but you put up some pretty much respectable results. Yes, I know you didn't win both of them, and let's be honest, I think you should have won both of them. Consider how flawed G2 are. Consider how GAM has not been great, although Vietnam and CB is kind of like wide open in some cases. I think you put up some respect in your name, and I think everybody should respect you, and I think everybody should talk about you more, and I think everybody should like learn that I think Furia should be really feared at going to Worlds if they were to qualify. That's my 2 cents about it. Again, Furia, it's not your fault, okay? It is not your fault. LTA Sol, if you're watching this right now, it is not your fault that your system has been put in. You've been placed in by Riot BS. Your anger is supposed to be Riot, not the North Americas, and the same thing goes to LTA North fans. You just your anger has to be placed with something else, okay? You don't do that, all right? They're victims of a broken system that we've been living in for years, okay? Years. It is what it is. Gam, I man, after game 3, I was kind of feel like you get swept and nobody would talk about you. Beaten by BLG, it is what it is. But after and but after game 3, I was feeling like, yeah, you're gonna get swept by G2 and nobody would talk about it. For them to fight back and to them to have like one game away from winning this whole thing and to make every single LEC fan loses their S if G2 were to lose the game. It's a testament to showcase once again that even though GAM cannot like go further in most competitions, they can show up and they can be competitive when it matters the most. Levi was decent. I mean, Levi was decent as per usual. Artemis was decent. Kiaya was good as per usual. The veterans of this team showing up when it matters the most. But unfortunately, it has been the same old thing that has been happening for the last several years, and it hurts Vietnam. When it comes to these pressurized situations, yes, G2 have not been performing well. Yes, they players have not been great. But when it comes to these pressure moments, you have to learn to execute big moments. You have to not make big mistakes. And the big mistake that hurts Gam in that game 5 was Kiaya walking a little too bit and then cast with the incredible stun and ulti. Skillon get the kill, and the entire game went downhill. The entire situation went downhill. Now, do I believe that Garen should have been a little more careful and a little more thing? Yeah, I think they should, but they're not that kind of team. If they play careful, they will lose. If they try to become aggressive, they will lose. It's like you can't listen. They can't. You can't just teach a team to be passive when you only need to be a when the only way you have to win is to be aggressive. You just can't teach a team that. The competition is the competition between the big teams and the smaller and the minor teams is just too large to the point of like you gotta have to play some aggressiveness. You gotta show some aggressiveness in order to win. And I think Gamma showcased they are an aggressive team every single year. Every single time they go into international events, they always come up with their aggressive, in your face style that may not be pretty to some eyes, but can be fun, can be expansive, and can bring you results. And while it did not yield like an advancement, I think they're proud. I think once again, Vietnam and GAM showcase their proud. Shout out to the general manager of GAM. He's a crazy bald guy. I know who he is, but he always brings the energy. He always has the flash. And that picture with Roman, him, and kissing, I don't know if it's AI or not, but I am going to not sleep well tonight seeing that image. That is a disturbing image, really much. So, anyways, I think I get my 07s to all these teams. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, except over 18, we have now reached the big boy stage. The play-ins was fun and incredible, but those are like small fish compared to the absolute behemoth known as the playoffs. Oh yeah, the real game begins. And for anybody who don't know, for every pick you make, every correct pick you make, you get points. Of course, make a perfect bracket. You get all the skins and all kinds of stuff. Which, listen, I was one series away from not like, you know, I was one series away from pretty much losing everything, and now that thank God we got the play-in stage, you know, kind of worked out. But we took the absolute scenic route. We took some forests in the trees, some rivers, and all kind of stuff. But we got it through, and that's all that matters. Now the bracket stage. Now this bracket stage prediction is served as a prediction and of course a a preview of what's to come tomorrow. Which by the way, the play-in bracket stage is like a day before all of this is over. So you better get into it. You gotta you gotta hurry, of course, in order to get your pickings going through, to get some, great awards and some skins, of course, if you are an active League of Legends fan. Which unfortunately I haven't played League in a long while. But it's always great to collect some skins and all kinds of stuff. Collector's items. Now, we're gonna start with the very first series. And in fact, I'm just not going to sugarcoat this. Let's just pick these matches. Gen G should be G2, AL should be FlyQuest, T1 will be CFO. And while I say BLG versus MCoy could be a really close game, I said MCoy should win this. Yeah, I listen. This should not be close. I think all these series right now should not be close. It would be a shock to many, many people if we get like one close series, maybe two if we have to. Like I don't see G2 with the current form they are can beat a really good Gen T team with the goddess of Chovy right now. I just don't see it. I just don't see this team beating at least two games against Gen G. If they pull it off, great, fantastic. But it's not going to change my mind just a little bit. It's not going to do anything much. So I'm going to go with Gen G over G2. AL versus FlyQuest. Yes, I listen. Yes, FlyQuest have the veterancy. Yes, FlyQuest have been to the situation before. And yes, AL is pretty much a new team. But with Tabe being coaching, and consider FlyQuest have a lot of flaws in this team, maybe top lane or maybe Inspired not doing well, of course, that could spell disaster for FlyQuest. So while the veterancy and the confidence and everything like that goes to FlyQuest, and maybe there might be the only Western team to at least give me hope to say that okay, yeah, whew, we're probably gonna win. We're probably gonna win, and we're probably gonna do something magical. I think FlyQuest is gonna lose to AL pretty much handily. T1 versus CFO, this is not even a close fight. I think CFO can show up in the first stand and do well, but this is a whole kettle of fish. You are not facing the Common Corps and the Team Liquids and the top boys. You're playing against the big boys. You're playing against Faker, of all players. You're playing against Gumi Yushi. You're playing against Doran. You're playing against a real League of Legends team. And you're facing a real League of Legends team in T1. I don't see this is going to happen. By the way, here's the kicker, ladies and gentlemen. The two matches that I mentioned are only standalone games. The first two matches, tomorrow and the second Tuesday, will be standalone games. All the rest of the week from Thursday until Sunday will be two best of fives each. One, and it's the same time situation as the playing stage. One at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. Eastern time. The other is at 7 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern time. Prime time League of Legends. If you're a Western fan, great. If you're an Asian market, great. If you're the East, if you're Europe, sucks. It is what it is. Not gonna blame you. Not gonna blame you, everybody. Again, right? BS. Always have to trust the system sometimes. Not all the time. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, T1 should clap GFO, and then I feel like the MCoy BLG series is an interesting one. I think Psychedelic Power will give them, MCoy give one series win, and that's true. I think it all comes down to how top lane is going to be played, how the top lane dictate the whole matchup. Can Ayoya have that incredible clutch gene, of course, in most games? Oh, wait. Why did I pick B? Why did I pick Koi? Yeah, I picked BLG. Yeah. Why did I pick Koi? Why did I pick Koi? I keep me an idiot. Why did I pick Koi? I think, okay, I think Koi can have a decent showing against Beijwang and that BLG team. Yes, BLG managed to sweep them, but there were some games that I feel like BLG should have lost, especially against the GAM game, of course. And G2 was this close to even beating BLG in, of course, the first game of the series when they were nearly, and I mean nearly, inches away from a couple of Nexus hits away from losing their entire game. So, while BLG have looked like a pretty good team, the way their play-ins have been good, it's just that they're a bit shaky. They're kind of shaky right now. They're not looking like themselves. They're just not looking good which is why I said yes, BLG are a top 14, but I just don't see this happening throughout the play-ins and throughout like the bracket stage. So while I say MCoy have a chance, I said BLG should win. Now, everything else from here on out is kind of blind me pick who's going to win this whole thing. So let's just start with the upper bracket matches. I think Genji should take care of business against AL. Yeah, AL are a pretty good team. Sure, but against Chovy, against some of the teams that yes, Ruler have been struggling a little bit. I think Genji are a much, much stronger team against an inexperienced and yes, I know well coached team, but pretty much inexperienced and really, really game against AL. T1 versus BLG, a rematch from the World's Finals in which T1 won by Faker's clutchness and BLG was this close to winning it. Consider how these two teams have not been in form most of the time. If we get T1 version of T1 in the playoffs, yeah, I think T1 should win. If we don't, I feel like BLG could have a little bit of slight edge. I think we might go 5 games between these two teams. And I believe that T1 should win this matchup clean. Well, not clean. Pretty much a 3-2 matchup between these two teams. I think I would not be surprised if BLG were to win this matchup. But I have T1 over BLG in my bracket. Honor to the lower bracket. I think G2 should take care of FlyQuest. Hold up. Scratch that, Akeem. I think FlyQuest should take care of G2. If we said everything, that I said about the whole bracket stage, the real test is gonna come to like against different opponents. You know, if all the things I said in the first round of bracket is like stick, I think G2 is gonna struggle against Gen G as per usual. The same way they're gonna struggle against FlyQuest as per usual. I think FlyQuest are a much better team than G2. Yes, I know G2 are kind of like the veterancy with Caps and all kinds of stuff. But I feel like this is North America's time for them to shock everyone. Well, not shock everyone, but to pull up a big win over G2, send Europe home, and be pretty much sad about it. I'm gonna go MCoy over CFO. I think CFO pretty good, decent, but unfortunately, I think MCoy can handle that. This, the lawyer and all the other teams should take care of CFO. Pretty much handling, no problem, of course. That leaves us with our lower bracket matchups. BLG versus FlyQuest. I think this is a 50-50 series. Maybe 60-40 if we have to, but I think it's a 50-50 series. I will say, listen, I will give BLG the win. But there's a world that FlyQuest could pull this off and upset if they can play their same old thing that they have done. To just play their same comps, to have the same confidence they have against Gen G. Everybody would think them as an underdog. BLG will kind of struggle. So maybe, just maybe, I have FlyQuest probably winning this series. But for my predictions, I'll go with BLG to win. I think Koi is going to send home by AL. I think Koi are a fine team, but against a dominant team like Tarzan, if Tarzan does not have the international choking situation that they have, I think they might win. I think this is more of like AL's veterancy and their better coaching is way better than Koi's coaching by a mile. You just never know. I think there is going to be a shellacking by Koi, of course. That leaves us with 4 teams, and that leaves us with the Korea versus Korea, China versus China matches. And by the way, Akeem, we get the Gen G T1 matchup, the matchup that Riot robbed us from the Road to MSI match. On one hand, I could pick Gen G, pretty much the most obvious team winning. And you know what? Hey, listen, Chovy is the better player than Faker. I think we can understand. But back in your mind must be thinking, T1 has been to this situation before. They know how to be clutch. They know how to win and all kinds of stuff. Maybe there's a world that T1 could win this whole thing. Maybe T1 can pretty much win. Nope, Genji. I have Genji winning. I think it'll be a close series. It'll be a really close series between these two. I think it'll be another 5 game series between these two. I didn't consider that many people are picking Genji to win the whole tournament. I think T1 are going to not care. But I think T1 We know the story about T1 most of the time. They can always show up. Maybe it might be a close series. Maybe I pick T1 to win, but I think for now, Gen G are my winners. And then I'll say BLG AL. I think AL will do it again. I think AL will do it again. BLG has not looking great against AL has not AL has beaten BLG twice in the best of five stage at LPL. I think there'll be a third time that'll happen. It depends on how confident, you know, BLG have been. Like, listen, if BLG can somehow do well at the bracket stage, if they do well at the whole bracket stage, you know, then I think I'll eat my socks. Of course, I'll probably eat my own words if that happens. Here's the kicker: I think AL are a better team than BLG. No, can BLG actually beat them? Of course I can. But the way the form has been working, the way that AL has been playing, I think I'll give AL the benefit of the doubt. I will put. I will kick. Okay. Whew, so Genji are in the finals. Okay. Okay. It's a tough one. Now, do I pick AL to win or do I pick T1 to win? I think it's a close one. I think I'll pick. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. I think AL is a better team than T1. I think we. It depends on how T1 shows up. If T1 managed to like do all these things and then beat BLG and then lost to Gen G as per usual, if T1 shows up in the same way as they did in the playoffs, I think T1 might win. But I'm gonna go something different. I'm gonna go something different and pick AL to beat them, which means we got Gen G versus AL, the top two teams in my rankings, the top two teams by everybody's mouths to beat them, and I will pick Gen G to win the midseason invitational. That is my pick'ems. That is my pick'ems for this entire tournament. That is the entire prediction pick'ems. Gen G to win it all. Yes, I'm picking the most obvious matches, of course, because gaps and all kinds of stuff. The only upset that I will say that is to many people that FlyQuest versus G2, but consider how G2 perform in play-ins and consider G2 not looking so well. Do I consider this an upset? No, not really. Not really an upset. So yeah, I pick Gen G to win the whole tournament. If you want, this is a bracket. Of course, this is my bracket. If you wanted to test yourself in the bracket, you go online to the play-ins, click on the bracket thing, and fill out your brackets before July 1st, which of course is tomorrow. Now, I think that pretty much covers all the MSI talk, of course. I'll be doing like a little bit of predictions on my Good Morning MSI predictions pretty much before every single matchup and then my reactions to it after the matches. So it's pretty much like that's all taken care of. Let's go to the other news that is not League of Legends related. So let's call it the flock of news post MSI. Now, two big news, and it's going to be a shocker to everyone else. Humanoid is being benched. Every Fnatic fan must be thinking, yes! We can finally win the LEC split now. No more Humanoid Razak. It has been a cancer for the last couple of years that cannot go over the line. Thank you, God. And you must pause yourself and say, hold up, hold up. This is Fnatic you're talking about. Do you really think that you're going to get some nice things? No, 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 no. Here's where the real joke comes in. They replace Humanoid with Poby. Oh my God. Poby is going to play for Fnatic. I am sorry, man, but is this a joke? Is this an absolute joke? You know, is this an absolute joke? Humanoid, an okayish player, a decently good player, even though he has not performed well when it matters most, is going to be replaced by a guy who, remind you, a couple of years ago, let's just go back to 2023 version, in which Poby replaced Faker because of arm injury. And let's just say T1 has not looking great with Poby in the lineup. Like, you can say all you want about Faker not playing well the last couple of years, or Faker's hands have not been great, but Faker is the reason why T1 are literally the best team in the world. And the best team in the world in clutchness, and the best team in the world in team fighting, and the best team in the world when it matters the most, they can show up. Poby has made this team a little bit worse. They've made this team a little bit worse than it seems. And now for Fnatic to snatch up him of all places in a time like this, like I just, oh, I just don't think this is happening. I just don't think it's a good thing. I don't think, to the eyes of many community, I just don't see Fnatic doing anything much in the LEC. I just listen. It may help your team do better. It may help Razak do better than he was. But look me in my eyes and tell me that Fnatic are going to win the LEC with Poby in the lineup. Like he could be like the Beijing of the Fnatic team. Just don't be like Humanoid. Just don't end most of the game. Just stay steady, not do much, and you'll be fine. But to replace a guy like him, yes, his numbers have not been great, but to replace a guy like who's the seventh best mid laner in most of the eyes, it's I just, oh my goodness, I just don't see this happening. Now, of course, mid lane, top lane might be unchanged because Osprey might take care of his place, but oof, it is going to be rough for Fnatic right now. It is going to be rough. And if you look at the transfer hub, of course, with all the LEC rumors and all the LEC transfers, it's just rumors and all kinds of stuff. But if we can sneak peek just a little bit, you can see that most of the rosters are already made. No roster change here, no roster change there. Whew, big roster change for BDS. Irrelevant is replaced by Rooster, and yeah, Irrelevant has not been great. 113 is going to be replaced by Bukata. The rest of them are not changed. So it's like top and jungle is going to be changed a little bit. SK is changing their entire team, mostly top lane. Abadag is going to be playing. Abadag is changing for Reeker. Bukata, who's going to go to BDS, is going to be replaced by Skins, and Jinx is going to be replaced by D&D. I'm not sure it's going to make it any better. Navi, who by the way got required rogue spot, of course, in the LEC. Pretty much the entire team is changed except a few changes. Adam Larson and Malrang. Oh, Malrang gonna be jungling. Oh, okay, pretty much interesting. Um, Adam is gonna be the only person staying. Thiager is gonna be jungling. Larson is gonna stay in mid lane and probably gonna be out of Navi after the holding. Hansam D is gonna be playing for a bot lane, along with Malrang, who's gonna transition from jungler to support. Nothing changed against MKOI. Vitality, not doing too much except Niski is going to be replaced by Fleshy. I think Niski support is not worked out. Team Heretics, nothing too much changes. So nothing too much changes in the LEC front for the top teams, of course, except Fnatic making big changes. SK is doing some decking of the chairs, of course, and Navi is pretty much having a new team with a new identity. I'm gonna say this right now. I don't think Navi, SK, BDS is gonna do anything much to challenge the top teams, of course. So it's like more like rearranging chairs and making better. So that's pretty much my 2 cents of the whole LEC situation. I want to go to the LTA and all kinds of stuff, but I'm gonna leave that as it is. Tier list, no thanks. I'm gonna just leave it as it is after MSI is over because we're into the meat of the MSI competition. Now, the second biggest news, of course, is pretty much Riot Games related. I told you we're gonna have some league news, of course. I told you we're gonna have some league news around MSI, but this took place after MSI, of course. This took place after sorry, before MSI. This took place before MSI. And I write down the Pandora's box of online gambling is now open for Valorant and League. And what I mean is that the esport is that Riot is now opening to gambling sites for League of Legends. And I got time to read this statement. Let me just skim over this statement, of course, by John Neiman, or into some communities call him Needle, you know what. And let's just skim over this situation. I think this is from our article. I think Dom and David already mentioned this. I think a lot of community people mentioned this about this whole thing, but I wanted to get my 2 cents about this because, and I'm gonna be honest, there's a lot of things going on in the world of sports right now. There's a lot of things that are going on in the world of sports. So this is from President Niam. It's saying, at Riot, we believe in the building of future esports and not just today for the long term. In 2023, we share our vision to make this sustainable with all the follow up and the leadership and all kinds of stuff. And that's why we decided to open up Bet and all kinds of stuff. So let's just play the devil's advocate. Let's just play a little bit of all things that's going on. Right now, so many things are not working. Cryptocurrency trying to make revenue does not work. Franchising pretty much honestly did not work. Saudi money, which by the way is kind of like the most sustainable thing right now with the EWC and all kinds of stuff, is sustainable for now. For now, it's sustainable. But you know that scene from Andy decided to throw away Woody from the Toy Story. I don't want to play with you anymore. That's going to be the same thing with the Saudis. They're going to treat you. They're going to make you like, hey, we're gonna open up our checkbooks and make it sustainable for the next 5 or 10 years. And then it's like, yeah, we're done with you right now. We got something like on the World Cup, of course, and we're gonna be like, yeah, we're not trusting you. So it almost feels like they are trying everything they have to invest this thing because here's a kicker, guys, and I'm guilty of this. We watch your stuff for free. Yeah, go figure. We watch all your esports, all your great content, and all these kind of stuff for free. No payments and all kind of stuff. By the way, a little bit of side swipe into the League of Legends. And speaking of, Saudi Arabia, congratulations to Team Falcons on winning the Riley Major of the Rocket League. And congratulations to Optic Texas or Optic Dallas winning back to back Call of Duty championships. First time in the history of COD League to ever done it. So weird. I think many people in the COD community saying that, oh man, Optic is not going to win this whole thing. And surprise, they won the whole thing. So, yeah. So a little bit of a side note of Maple League. But that is pretty much the point within all of esports, with even League of Legends and Valorant, that we are watching this whole stuff for free and never got a return on investment back. Like if you watch like a UFC fight, which I haven't watched UFC fights in a long while, but if you want to watch a UFC fight or boxing fights or NFL or MLB and all this kind of content, you have to pay. It sucks, I get it, but in order to get all the content that you watch and all this kind of stuff, you have to pay. You have to like fork over the money. $14.99, $3.99, $7.99, all this kind of stuff. You have to fork over the money. And is it stressful enough? Is it too much? Yeah, it's too much, but it is all worth it. It is the same thing with like video games, of course. It is the same thing with games and TV shows and all kinds of stuff. If you want to get all the best quality, if you wanted to get all the good stuff, all the great stuff, you have to pay over the money. You have to fork over the money. Otherwise, you will never see The Bear or, you know, cool anime stuff or any other TV show that you love so much. You have to pay up. You have to pay up a lot of money to subscribe to those things. You're gonna get good quality. You're gonna get everything like that. Probably pay a monthly fee like Netflix and all kind of stuff. Like, listen, all revenue paying money is not going to be. It's not a hard thing to do. It's not as hard everything to do. Now look at StarCraft right now. I mean StarCraft and you know shout out to Tasteless doing a little bit of Patreon funding, of course, to fund the English broadcast and all kind of stuff. But that is paying with their own money. That is paying with not their own money, with other people's money. They're relying on other people's money in order to do that. And it works. And it absolutely works. And when it comes to esports right now, and it comes to League and Valorant, whenever they see like a price to be paid, they're just like, ew, I don't want to pay for that. I want my faker skin. I want my free faker skin. I want my free game. I want my free stuff. And it, it's never going to work. It is not going to work in this day and age and economy. When esports winter is going to kick everybody in the booty, left, right, and center to the point of like, yeah, this thing is not going to work long term. And yes, you might rely on the Saudi money for now, but away from the human rights, all these kind of situations, it's all good right now until just like Andy in Toy Story, They don't want to play with you anymore. So I think Riot Games is looking at the situation is that, okay, how are we going to make money and make an investment while trying to make this thing free in charge at the same time? Online gambling. They're opening up an online gambling right now. And I have some thoughts, of course. I'll already have my thoughts. But esports, of course, sports betting is not for everyone and have strong feelings, of course. Restricted sponsorships, sponsorships, and all kinds of stuff. All the talking, of course. The VCT and the LoL esports have reached $10 billion in 2024, but 70% of the bets had to all sports are all regulated markets with bookmakers and all kinds of stuff. They are setting up guardrails and all kinds of stuff, answering calls to partnership teams, open up sponsors, guidelines, of course, for education and all kinds of stuff, and use monitoring and all these kinds of stuff. Betting, build an established thing with grind, of course, to bring in statistics so you can just learn who's going to be winning and where you're going to put your money and all kind of stuff and all this other stuff. Mandated checks, and of course, with safeguard and uphold responsibilities and all this stuff. And sponsoring the tier 2 teams, which, let's be brutally honest, the tier 2 is going to get it's not looking fine right now. And even tier 2s have some lots of match fixing. Like, you look at the Valorant, like, there was some match fixing in the Valorant EMEA system that really drives some people's gears. So I'm not sure if this is going to help that much. Yeah, you can say that it helps the ecosystem and the revenue sharing, but match fixing in tier 2, not going to happen that much. Increasing pools and all kinds of stuff, and integrity, of course. And the real kicker is that Riot Games broadcast will be betting free, no ads, no segments on jerseys, and it will be up to team to do some sporting betting sponsorship with some, TOS and regulations and content, of course, if you had it. So listen, let's be brutally honest. When I watch a basketball game, there is commercial here, commercial there, then a lot of commercials, then commercials on the free throw line, there are commercials from FanDuel, of course. There's commercials like, you know, you know, every 5 minutes. It's just annoying to see. It's just too many things at the same time. It's the same thing like drinking, alcohol, which is the same thing as having a betting, of course. You can have alcohol as your like pleasure meal, but too much of it will really, really harm you in the long run. Like I can have like one or two drinks and then be like, okay, I'm fine, I'm good. But if you're doing it a little too much, it can really harm you. And it's the same thing with gambling. If you wanted to bet money, sure, bet money with money that you can afford to lose, with money that you can afford to spend and to have fun with it. But don't just chase a loss when you're like, oh, I wouldn't listen. I lost my last bet, so I just wanted to get more and more of that. It will spiral you out of control. It will make you a bad person. It ruins lives. It ruins families. It brought crime into the play-ins, and trust me, there's a lot of crime that involves gambling and all kinds of stuff, and a lot of abuse, mind you. Like Emma Ranaku, of course, she got stalked, of course, and thank God Wimbledon and the authorities stopped the stalking. But I think there's a little bit of trinket that talks about, betting. And by the way, I'm looking at X right now. They're doing a little bit of tennis channel betting, of course. So those things kind of really affected them, even though they subconsciously they don't know about these. The abuse they get from oh, you didn't do well, so I lost a couple $100 because of you. And let's look at the NBA. One of the Detroit guard players was involved in so much betting right now that it pretty much like NBA gonna pretty much suspend him. I think everybody knows who they're talking about. If you don't, please leave in the comments. I know what you're talking about. But gambling is not something that you just play with right now. It is a really, really serious thing that you have to take responsibility. You have to uphold integrity, and you have to carefully place your money. Of course, it is fun and entertaining, sure, but you got to have to bet responsibly. Keyword responsibly, of course. To all my people who are watching this right now, I am not going to put any betting sponsors and all kinds of stuff into my channel. My channel is betting free, sponsorship free, because I don't have any sponsors, of course. I literally have no money. But all these things are kind of like free of charge, free. You don't free of charge, no BS, no gimmicks, all kind of stuff, no gotchas, of course. It is free. My channel is free for you, for all my subscribers. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe to this video if you wanted more League of Legends content. And, we're going to keep it that way. But if you want to make this entertaining, you want to do something, of course, you got to have to do it responsibly. Now, I have some pros and cons for all of these things based on what I read. And it's going to be a little bit short, or hopefully not short, but I want to do some good and bad things about pros. So it makes the games entertaining by putting some bet you are making the games entertaining by, you put in your money, you're watching the games, you see like, okay, can we get like 30 kills in 50 minutes? Can we have like, cons, Elder Dragon steals? Or can we have like a closed series, of course, so I can make more money? Those kind of things, and it makes the games pretty much exciting. It will make entertaining games so cool. So I'll give you that. I'll give you that gambling is making these situations more exciting. Like, I watch Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt, and Scott Van Pelt have this segment every Monday called Bad Beats, in which they took random scenery games, basketball, football, all kind of stuff, and just turn it into absolute gamblers' nightmares to the point of like, this is why you should not bet at these things because crazy stuff can happen in sports that can really ruin your entire situations. You know, you know, a point spread might get destroyed by a backdoor touchdown. Some teams are not doing that much, makes you frustrated, which is really frustrates a better. So it's entertaining, of course, but again, you got to be careful to do these things because while it's entertaining and all kind of stuff, it can really, really ruin you. It also helps that tier two esports financially stable. I think I said it again. I think it would make the scene bring on more prize pools, more money, more revenue, more eyeballs. I hope because I think the tier two team needs it because tier two right now is in a really dire mess. We already lost near airport, one of the promising, and I mean promising NA teams to try to promote themselves to the LTA with double lift and all kind of stuff, and it is not looking great for the tier two seed. Unless you're lost Ratatouille, of course. That one pretty much is. And finally, it will not affect the broadcast, but the teams will have the option to do so. Mentioned about it. No ads of betting and all kind of stuff. No ads on T-shirts. No anything of that. But of course, teams will have to like see if they can want to involve betting sponsors in order to do that. So all you players who decided to not put up content in anybody else is like, you better put up some content for some betting sponsors, and you need to get some money because if you don't, my God, it will be absolutely fisting right now for some of the teams. Some cons, of course, open up the match fixing, pretty much mostly in the tier two scene. Tier one is like not as much. Although the last time we have the match fixing situation, it was in 2021 Worlds, in which a Beyond Gaming player got absolutely suspended because of match fixing, of course. So while it's not as much in the tier one scene, there's a lot of tier twos and lower leagues that can manipulate results in order to get some money. So and it even happens in the most infamous CS:GO, you know, situation, the I buy power situation, which is a CS:GO situation, but it's the same situation that we might have in League of Legends and Valorant if we do not be careful. I don't know if it. I mean, sponsoring gambling sponsors could be shady. You never know which sponsorship is going to be good or bad or trustworthy or any kind of stuff. So while they're monitoring the situation to make it good, I'm not. Some might slip through the cracks, and it might gonna affect how everything goes through. It might affect the integrity, the competitive integrity of all these kind of stuff. So I think the shadiness of the gambling sponsorship could happen. Of course, I'm not sure it could help esports with the revenue. It could help them in the short term, but we'll have to find out in like 5, 10 years and if gambling sponsorships and the gambling revenue can help them in the long run for the esports. Because listen, we needed the revenue for esports. I mean, esports right now or League of Legends is in a really dire straits right now. Listen, FPS and Valorant is fine, but League of Legends, I think Dom mentioned this, is in a really downward spiral to the point of like newer players is going to come in and just like their brain is gonna be absolutely into mush because they have to learn so much things. Like that is the reason why I'm not even good at like the whole analytical champions, picking, composition, and all kind of stuff. I have to rely on different websites. I have to rely on different websites to find out, of course, how they do it. I have to rely on draftsgap.com to determine all the compositions, how they play, and all kind of stuff. I have to rely on other resources in order for me to get my fix on League of Legends content. And even then, that my knowledge of League is not as strong, which is going to be really suffering for some of the content creators, of course. I'm more of a narrating guy kind of guy, and my narrative skills are just telling me that League is not looking great. Like for newer players, and even for high school and college levels, League of Legends is not a game that people wanted to pick up. They wanted to have like a game that is simple and quick and easy. And yes, Valorant can be complicated with all the abilities, but it's like, hey, get shooty thing, right click on shooty thing. How do I know say this without getting canceled? Unalive person with shooty thing. You know what I mean. You just know what I mean. You know what I mean. So League of Legends is in a really dire straits right now in terms of like capturing the core value of the younger audience. It's like the demographic is like in my age, your older audience, of course. And it's not capturing the demographic at all. It's not capturing the young people, the marketing, the situation right now. Arcade did not help. Arcane, the show was fine in a standalone show, but it did not help drive the whole thing up. So it's like if gambling is going to be the way to make all the revenue and make it open up to some things, yeah, I think it will work. But I am not sure it's going to like do much in the long grand scheme of things. So that's my 2 cents about the whole gambling situation. If you wanted to talk about it, leave that in the comments. What do you think about the esports gambling thing? Will it help or will it hurt League and Valorant in the long term? I think that should do it for my, you know, this is my, MSI play-ins recap plus MSI bracket stage play-ins plus a couple of news that's going on in League. Okay, one more, quick one more. It said that it's much more peaceful with how Fearless significantly reduced the amount of complaints about meta champions. This is from Face Visa 10, which is Visa 10. Yeah, they're coming and saying half a year has passed by in 2025, where Tier 1 regions play with Fearless Draft. For the longest time in the past, complaint posts about specific champions occur very frequently, like in 2024 about Azir, Tristana, Corki, Yone, Mid, or Sejuani, Makai, Skarner, and Johnner, or Cassandre, Jax, Rumble, ranked in top. So far in this year, I have yet to see a highly agreed champion complaint post. Think the Fearless Draft forcibly expand the pool. Undeniably, there are still issues with Fearless Draft, as more keen viewers can realize only around 60 champions ever have a chance to be picked or banned instead of 170 champions. But compared to the past, this is a huge step in a good direction. And I will say this with confidence that I will upvote that post. I think Fearless has made the game and made the scene a lot more better. Does it have complaints? Yes, because you're squeezing 60 champions in a meta pool compared to like the wider pool of 170. I think I can understand the point. But it makes you feel like the games have been more refreshing. There's different kind of style, different kind of champions to be played it, different kinds of composition to be played it. Or we're gonna play like, the engaged dive comp sometimes. Or we're gonna play more poke or all the good stuff. Or we're gonna play like more scaling or kind of stuff. Different matches, different styles, different leagues that many people said. You know, different leagues. I'm using it, I'm using the Ole Miss press conference, the Chip Kelly, not Chip Kelly. Uh, you know what I mean. But it makes sense that Fearless is pretty much like it makes the game and it makes the watching of the tier 2 scene a lot better. And there is complaints, of course. There are flaws, but if everybody told you that Fearless is going to make League better in competitive scene when all the people complained about it a couple of months ago, then I think all the complaints have been quietly shuttered down just a little bit. Not as much, but just a little bit, of course. We will see when the rest of MSI and the rest of the year plays out. But for now, I think I agree with this whole comment by Face VZ10 that I think Fearless Draft is making Tier 1 regional play look better. That should do it for my entire show. This is a little bit of rambling on all these going on with MSI plans and news and all kind of stuff, and a little bit of Reddit appreciation, of course. Thank you all for listening and watching. Like, subscribe, and comment to the video. We will see you after Sunday when all of us will be selling with a bracket stage of MSI shakes out. See who goes through, see who goes out, all this kind of stuff. Thank you everybody, and I'll see you on the next side. Goodbye, one and all. Have a